Hey, you guys. So, we have this amazing promotion here at Grave Intentions Goods, and I wanted to talk about it. I actually have like 6 pages I typed up to talk about it, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of how excited I am. So, this is called the Vanity Arcana, and it's a custom glamour deck contest. It's a contest. There's only going to be 22 winners, so there's only 22 seats at this table. And so it's rolling out today. It's going to be active for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the contest. And I want to just talk about what it is and how it works. So let's talk about spells for a second, right? So every post that you've ever published online, honestly, every photo you've curated, every caption that you've sort of crafted with intention, that moment that you share that particular photo or comment with the world, that's a spell. I don't know how much people really understand or look at that concept. You select the image, you choose the words, you sent it out into the ether, basically, saying, this is how I want to be seen. That's glamour magic, right? That's will made digital. And so I want you to imagine that energy bound into a physical object, right? We talk about talismanic work. I just did, those series on working with Jupiter and Venus talismans or the pentacles, but this is very, very similar to that. So, however, this is a tarot deck. It's a custom tarot deck, and let me talk about how it works. So I'm calling it the Vanity Arcana. I don't know, maybe I'll change the name, but that just kind of populated in my head when I was coming up with this contest. But it's basically a one-of-a-kind deck that we're creating here that's a glamour spell that you hold in your hands. And it's not one that just you're casting, it's one that many people are going to be casting for you because it's going to be out in the general population. So I'm basically taking the likeness of 22 clients and placing them into the 22 cards of the majors in the tarot. And I'm going to play with the art a little bit. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to pop up some examples of what I'm working on. But it's one person per card, custom illustrated basically to embody that archetype energy. So I'm very, very excited. Again, I'm going to put some examples up here. So this isn't just like personalized art. I'm not doing some Etsy personalized art project here. This is a very intentional, magical working. So it's your image, your energy, your essence, kind of woven into the most powerful system in Western esoteric tradition and printed into a living tool, basically, for you to use and for others to use. Without it even being directly correlated. It's kind of a neat little offshoot. But basically, every time your card is pulled in a reading, that glamour activates, okay? So every deck that carries your face carries your signal forward. So posts are spells, right? And this deck is probably the most powerful post you'll never have to write. I thought of that late last night. It was like a one-liner. Boy, I look kind of rough today. That's okay. I need some glamour work. All right, so how can you enter this contest? I have to check my notes. Okay, so you need to place an order of $200 or more in the shop on select qualifying dates, and you're going to be automatically entered to win one of these 22 coveted spots. So it can be a combination of anything. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It just has to meet that $200 or higher total. So this Friday, the 29th, Saturday, the 30th, and Sunday, the 31st are our first 3 days. More dates will be published if we need to. But there's going to be 22 winners for these 22 archetypes and one limited edition deck, basically. So each winner is going to receive one free printed copy of the Vanity Arcana, their likeness sort of immortalized in the majors, and a glamour working anchored in physical form, basically. There will be additional decks available for purchase, of course, because, when the magic is this good, you're going to want to share it, right? So this deck is not going to be reprinted. Let me, after I do this run, this is going to be a one and done. There are no wait lists, no exceptions. It's limited by design. Scarcity is sacred. It is. That's why I work with antiques, occult antiques. And, some things are only meant for the few who are paying attention, quite honestly, in life. So, let's talk about glamour spells for a minute. And I wrote out like 4 pages of stuff I wanted to cover, and I'm realizing now that might have been a little bit ridiculous. But I'm going to send this out in an e-newsletter too, and I'm going to post it on some of my other socials where I can actually write articles like Substack and Patreon. On TikTok and Snap and all these other sites, I really can't get into this too much. It's too much time. But I basically, glamour spells, there's 5 pillars of a true glamour spell, right? There's attraction, which is the hook. There's influence, which is the current beneath the words, right? There's persuasion. It's the art of the open door. And I broke this down into mystique, which is the power of selective revelation, and presence, which is the ground beneath everything. Glamour is spiritual technology as well. So I think we really get caught up in the idea that glamour is just attraction or desire or the activation of those components. And it's so much more than that, because glamour is not decoration. It is perceptual override is what it is, right? I keep getting cut off, but I think that attraction, when we're talking about glamour, is kind of like the arrest of attention, right? It's arresting your attention. And the context isn't just about desire. It's this question that burns in us of, why does this person hold my attention against my own will, right? It's that energetic magnetism, right? It acts like a signal, kind of like a beacon that cuts through the noise of a very overstimulated world that we live in. When we look at influence, influence shapes how people think about you over time. And I think that's probably one of the most sophisticated layers in a glamour working is this influence. Attraction hooks, but attraction is a moment, right? You need the influence piece for it to carry through. So, glamour spells for influence, they work at the level of narrative, your narrative, and how that is being energetically understood by those around you that you're interacting with. So, persuasion, again, I wish I could read all of this. It's way too much. But, persuasion is basically, I feel like, influence made immediate, right? It is glamour really amplified at the moment of decision. It's the energetic current that makes a maybe become a yes, honestly. So this is a very important element of glamour working. So true glamour-based persuasion really isn't manipulation. It's more of an unconscious resistance lifting from people so that they can move. Okay, so I keep getting cut off because people keep calling my phone. I apologize, but boy, it really throws me off too. Anyways, persuasion through glamour opens doors, and it lowers the unconscious resistance that keeps people from moving toward what already resonates with them. So that's a very important component when we're doing glamour work, right? You're kind of removing the static between genuine desire and action, which oftentimes causes a headbutting effect. So mystique, the power of selective revelation, I really believe that every master of glamour knows that you're never fully visible, and you don't want to be, right? Mystique is the deliberate maintenance of depth. And I think that it's this quality that makes people feel like they haven't quite figured you out yet, and that there's always more. And knowing you is like an ongoing discovery rather than a completed fact. That's a very important layer of, I think, glamour work. Mystique keeps your energy contained and potent rather than diffused and common. When we talk about presence, presence is the experience of being fully inhabited, right? It can't be faked, it can be cultivated and amplified through glamour work. It is a felt sense transmitted without words. It is, this person is completely here. And so I feel like this is very important to work in, because a glamour spell for presence works by anchoring your energy, right, fully into your body and field, removing the leaks, sealing the aura, drawing scattered attention back into a single sovereign center. And so it's less about adding something and more of like coming home to what you already are with all the lights on. And then glamour as spiritual technology. I could go on and on about this for days, but at the world at its most fundamental level here is about perception, narrative, and frequency and vibration, right? And what people believe about you can shape the reality that you're moving through. And so, opportunities appear, doors open, doors close. That energy is always returned to you and it's not random. So, part of glamour work, a large part of it, is the reflection of the story of your energetic field, what it's broadcasting. And you need to make sure you're broadcasting at the right frequencies, the right vibrations. So a glamour spell is really an act of like conscious authorship of that broadcast. And so, the scene world bends toward those who know how to speak to it in the right grammar. And that is, I think, like the backbone of glamour work. So it is about projective, energetic intention with precision, with magic. And so I probably could have gone on and on. I wrote out 6 pages, but I'm going to post these articles. But like I said, I'm going to post this article on Substack, Patreon. I'll send it out in my e-newsletter. The contest will run for the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Read over what you need to read over. Reach out to me if you have questions. But we're very, very excited about it. And I wanted to just make this quick video to talk about it today.